So not long ago, I was just like really like got lit on fire by the notion that the one of the reasons that narcissists will like drive us so crazy is that they're bored. That's why they pick on us so much. That's why they mess with us so much because they get bored as if the rest of us are not. Like then they need to occupy and relieve their minds like the rest of us aren't doing some version of that. Like, that's the narcissist. Like, well, I get bored. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else. But it did, after just talking about the mental health industry and academia and how they're treating this, it did route me right back to that. They are using all of this and all of us to relieve their boredom, to keep them occupied, to give their mind something to chew on. And it's just elevated boredom. I really, that's all it is. All of this, like, what diagnosis can we come up with? These symptoms, we know they're trauma. We all know they're trauma. Again, legitimate research going back to the 80s that they have been turning the other way. We'll take PTSD because that's veterans and that's but abuse. Again, they don't like us. They don't like the traumatized. They don't like dealing with that. It's messy. It's hard. It's emotions. It's too much. Um, so instead, we separate out these symptoms and who's manifesting what, because again, in trauma, we are all unique in how we respond to that more than anything else. It's a human brain. We all are, each of ours is different. Each of our experiences, everything. Your abuse is different, your response to it is different, so we're all manifesting a little differently with this PTSD. So it's real easy for them to section us off, like these people are doing these behaviors, these people are doing it this way. There's very little demarcation really between borderline personality disorder and bipolar 1, so that like us experts sometimes can't even figure it out. And then ADHD, oh whoa, that confuses it even more. Now we've got quiet borderline personality disorder, and all they all are is sections of symptoms manifested out of trauma, out of complex trauma, all of them. Um, and really, it is an academic game. It's a cerebral game. What can we call them? What can we label them that sounds way fancier than trauma? And then, what kind of mind games can we come up to try and, mess with that? And what kind of drugs can we throw in there too? Probably just some antidepressants, antipsychotics, the regular. And I'm going to go back and I will qualify this heavily. I will go and find a therapist when I go to do that and start, and I've no luck for a few years now. The last good therapist I had was in 2018, 2019. Because I'll go and say, I need someone who's familiar with complex PTSD, or at least round familiarity with PTSD enough for me to get there with them. Astoundingly, I've run into therapists who are like, no, I've never heard of complex PTSD. Yeah, it's not in your Bible. And it never will be. If it's not after 40 years, it's not going to be now. It doesn't count. Not treatable. Too much work. But then I will go further and say I would love to find somebody that knows, like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Well, there are therapy modalities that definitely work. They happen to be older. And now, as I said previously, it looks very much to me, having experience in both of those worlds very heavily, looks very much to me like, okay, we've come up with the fancy name, now let's come up with a therapy modality. It doesn't work like that, and they're literally, again, just trying to take what you are that's messy, that they don't want to dig in and do the work with. They would rather come up with this publishable, interesting, fascinating new little manipulation to make you different. Not make you whole, but make you different. Pay close attention to the things they're asking you to do, the ways they're asking you to do it, and the labels they are putting on it. Are they saying you have got a disorder and that's why bad things are happening to you, and if you get rid of your disorder, do it the way we say, then it'll all be better? And is that working? Because it never worked for me. It never worked for me until I took control of my own therapy. I got off of all the drugs that my doctor had put me on. And that's something else I want to touch on. See how easy it is for you to get your records, your therapy records, your psychiatry records, see how easy it is for you to get your hands on your own files, your own notes, because I spoke about those notes earlier, and my big point there was I had a supervisor telling me to put a note, frequently, all the time, put a note in there that had nothing to do with my actions with that client. That note goes into your permanent file. So every time somebody puts a note in that's like loosely associated with what they might have done or not associated at all, yeah, with Medicare and Medicaid, you just got to fill a box. I don't know about the rest of the insurance, probably. And it goes into a permanent note. And when I found out what my doctor, here's the progression. It went, years of all of this medical abuse, pills. And at one point I realized she's got me on so much Xanax, I have got to get off this stuff. Furthermore, she's put me on Ambien CR, and I just got took down by the worst effect that can have on you. And I'm realizing I need to get off this stuff fast for my own safety. So I go to her, and I say, okay, it's time to start weaning off this Xanax right now. I see what it's doing. And she goes into a fury. No, she's not going to help me get off of it. And the only reason I'm wanting to do that is because I'm manic, while I'm sitting there in a half coma going, how could I possibly be manic on 8 milligrams of Xanax a day? I had to do it myself. And it took me a year, and over a year. And when I got after that, and I went to her and said, okay, now I am off of it. I just finished my last 1/8, and I'm like 2 weeks clean out of it. She went into another fury, immediately had to prescribe me Ativan instead of Xanax, which I filled and just took home and put in a closet. I was like, and then she was double prescribing it because now you got to come in 2 times a month now that you did this crazy thing. And that is the point. I would not know this until years later, regarding my permanent disability status. It was a big deal. I would not find out until years later that when I went there and said I need to get off of this drug, she labeled me as drug seeking and not accepting treatment. That took me down, because to this day, it's old enough now that I don't think it follows me, it doesn't seem to, but that is in there. And when I saw clear as day that this doctor had labeled me drug seeking when I was trying to get off of her drugs, drug seeking and refusing treatment, it almost took away my permanent disability status, which now, I don't know, my foot is so busted, I'm like, I used to walking up to 11 miles, and I'm afraid to walk blocks now. Yeah, it almost messed that up. So seriously, because I did go back once I found all this out, went and tried to figure out to get my hands on the information about me. And it was going to cost me at least hundreds of dollars just to get my hands on it. I was going to lawyers, and they were going, yeah, there's no way around this. So you don't know what's in there, but everything you say and do in that space is somehow being recorded in here, and you don't know if it's true or not. I'm doing everything I can to bust this up and get people to think about this in terms of what is this doing for me? What is it doing for the people I love? What is it doing for the people who come behind me in trauma needing help? How bad is this going to get? Because over 40 years, it has progressively gotten worse, more insular, more narcissistic, more there to relieve their boredom and find a new way to play with your symptoms instead of just saying, this is trauma, we're going to do the work, you're going to do the work, and you're going to get better, and then we will move on to the next traumatized clients. There are plenty for them, and they can make enough money treating people the right way. We don't need to prop up big pharma, big insurance. We don't need to prop up any of this stuff. We don't need to be giving these narcissistic doctors all that money just to mess with you. Find a good therapist if you can, and then look around at your comrades and see who else is going through this and how they're surviving it. We can inform you a lot. We can inform you a lot. We can inform each other a lot. No matter what phase of this you're in, no matter if you feel broken or no matter if you feel strong as hell, you've got something to contribute to this, and it's probably better than what we're finding in that mental health web right now. So, for what that's worth, the news you don't want to hear, peace, loves.